I discovered my wife's hidden phone, revealing texts that proved she was cheating on me with my brother. In a fit of betrayal, I confided in my sister-in-law, but now my family is enraged and insists I remain silent to protect my brother's reputation. I'm a 30-year-old man with an older half-brother, Jerry, who is 35. My dad had Jerry with his ex-wife, but he left her when Jerry was just 6 months old. My mom explained that they divorced because they were simply incompatible. Despite the split, my dad remained an active part of Jerry's life, sharing custody with his ex-wife. 2 years after his divorce, my dad met my mom, and they married within a year. Their romance seemed like a real-life fairy tale. My mom recounts that she first saw my dad when he was walking past a coffee shop. It was apparently love at first sight for him, and he mustered the courage to go inside and ask her out. After a few months of dating, he proposed, and she eagerly accepted, feeling certain that he was her soulmate. It all seemed perfect, didn't it? Unfortunately, about a year into their marriage, my dad cheated on my mom with a coworker. Overwhelmed with guilt, he confessed, and my mom decided to forgive him. They sought marriage counseling and worked through their issues. My mom believed that having a baby would mend their marriage, which is how I came to be. She often romanticizes this part of their story, but to me it just seemed like a testament to their dysfunction. They were more about maintaining appearances than being genuinely happy. Growing up, my parents always put on a show of being madly in love whenever guests were around. Friends and family would praise them for keeping the spark alive after so many years of marriage. But the reality was different. At home, they were like any other couple, not constantly affectionate or in a perpetual honeymoon phase. Their public persona was a carefully crafted facade, and it wasn't until I was older that I saw through it. The pressure to appear perfect extended to me as well. I was enrolled in countless classes, always busy with activities, leaving me with little time to relax as a child. It wasn't until high school that I started pushing back, and my parents finally allowed me some downtime at home. My dad made sure Jerry and I were straight as students, excelling in everything we did, whether academically or otherwise. It was no surprise when Jerry got into one of the top medical schools in the country, and I was accepted into an Ivy League college for business. The intense pressure probably contributed to our success, but I wouldn't advise other parents to follow this path. Unfortunate it worked out for me, but my dad also believed he had the right to control our personal lives. My mom rarely disagreed with him, so their decisions were often unified. When Jerry turned 30, my dad sat him down, insisting that it was time to start looking for a woman to marry and settle down with, emphasizing that his options would soon dwindle. At the time, Jerry was dating Tina, a 34-year-old woman, and they had been in an on and off relationship for nearly 5 years, so my dad was aware of their history. Following this talk, Jerry decided to get serious about Tina, proposed within a year, and they married 3 years ago. They even had a baby last year. Jerry and I aren't close, so I learned about all this from my dad, who had the same conversation with me earlier this year. He told me he had convinced Jerry to marry Tina, and now it was my turn to get serious about having a family. He proudly boasted about his role in Jerry's marriage and expressed his desire for me to follow suit. He had no idea how disastrously this would backfire later. My dad brought up his own past affair, mentioning that he had felt unfulfilled but stayed committed to my mom, and that having a child had grounded him. He suggested that I should follow the same path. I took his advice with a grain of salt, not planning to let my father dictate my relationship choices. Fortunately for him, he believed he had influenced my life decisions. In reality, I had already been planning to propose to my girlfriend, Carla, a 30-year-old woman I had been with for 3 years, living together for 2. 2 months after my conversation with my dad, I proposed on my birthday. She said yes, and we got married 3 months ago. I thought everything was going well, but clearly it wasn't. Carla and I had only been married for 2 months when I had to file for divorce about a week ago after discovering she had been having an affair with Jerry since our engagement. It was a shocking revelation, and I wouldn't have found out if I hadn't accidentally come across her burner phone. I was searching for a piece of clothing that was missing and decided to look through her clothes, thinking she might have accidentally mixed it with hers. When I was rummaging through them, I felt something in the pocket of a pair of jeans. I pulled it out and found another phone. Thankfully, it wasn't password protected and there was only one text thread on it. I noticed the number and recognized it as Jerry's. I was horrified, yet I couldn't stop scrolling. The chat started 3 weeks after I proposed to Carla, and their messages were filled with the kind of flirtation you'd expect from teenagers. They confessed their love a few months after our engagement, and both promised to stick it out, no matter what. Their plan was to stay with their respective partners until my nephew turned 5, at which point they would file for divorce and come clean to Tina and me about the affair. Jerry would get shared custody of his son, and they would leave us to be together. Reading all this, I was sickened, especially when I realized they intended to maintain this deceit for 5 years. It was utterly deranged. I immediately began packing my things to leave the house. Knowing Carla wouldn't be home until late as she was out with friends, I took the opportunity to gather all my belongings that would fit, took numerous screenshots of the messages on her phone, and drove to a hotel a little out of town. I left no message for her, just placed the burner phone on our bed, knowing she would understand what it meant. I was sick to my stomach. Despite Jerry and I never being particularly close, we had never been on bad terms either. From the messages, I deduced that Jerry had made a move on Carla the night of our engagement. I had proposed on the day of my birthday party with friends and family present, including Jerry, who was still considered family. Apparently, Jerry had approached Carla and they had made out in the backyard of our house while I was mingling with guests. I had noticed her missing for some time that night, but didn't think much of it, assuming she had gone to freshen up her makeup. Reading the texts, I discovered numerous references to the night of our engagement and their secret rendezvous. It was revolting to think that I was celebrating our future while she was in the backyard kissing my married brother, who is also the father of a child. That evening, I called my lawyer and told him to start preparing the divorce paperwork. My main concern was to ensure Carla wouldn't get any alimony or settlement, given my higher paying position. I knew she would try to exploit that. From the texts, it became clear that she looked down on my profession, expressing a preference for being with a doctor over a glorified accountant. For the record, I run my own business, which I started a few years ago with two buddies from business school. I manage the finances and we're doing quite well, so I don't understand why Carla would look down on us when she's a corporate employee herself. I always knew she was materialistic, but this revelation was just heartbreaking. The texts revealed how much they had ridiculed me behind my back, and I began to loathe Jerry. I knew I would have to tell Tina soon to make sure she knew her husband was a deceitful, lying cheater and to encourage her to leave him. I was just gathering the courage to do it, as I was in a very dark place. As soon as I discovered the burner phone, I blocked both Carla and Jerry everywhere. I didn't want to hear any of their excuses or give them a chance to explain. I was done. 2 days after I moved into the hotel, I had hoped that at least one of them would have the decency to apologize and ease my anger. Instead, I received a call from my father on the third day. He started by telling me that he had heard about the affair because Carla had discovered that I knew as I had left the burner phone on the bed, and she had contacted Jerry, unsure of where I was or why I wasn't answering her calls. Unable to reach me, Jerry had spoken to my dad, who then managed to get in touch with me. He began by expressing his sorrow over what had happened, and I initially thought he was being sympathetic. But after expressing his regret, he asked me to keep everything a secret and not discuss it publicly just yet. I knew why he wanted that, but I decided to ask him directly and recorded his response. He told me that he had spoken with Jerry and both of them were worried about the same thing, that I would inform Tina about the affair. My dad explained that since I was unwilling to speak to Jerry and had blocked him, he felt it was his duty to tell me that neither he nor my mother wanted me to reveal the truth to Tina. They argued that unlike me, Jerry had to consider his child's well-being, and exposing his affair with Carla would devastate his life. They mentioned that Tina came from a well-connected family, and it was likely she would leverage her influence to secure a favorable custody arrangement, something Jerry couldn't afford to risk. Through my dad, they all implored me to keep quiet. They claimed they had spoken to Jerry and made him promise to stop seeing Carla, suggesting that I could try to reconcile with Carla and make our marriage work, just as my mother had done with my father, which, according to them, had turned out beautifully despite his past mistakes. My parents thought I should follow their lead and forgive Carla and Jerry for their mistake, because, according to them, both were truly sorry. It was a bold move for them and Jerry to try to convince me not to tell Tina about the affair, especially after Jerry had so callously betrayed me. I couldn't believe they had the audacity to expect me to agree to this. I hung up immediately, having finished recording, and didn't want to engage in the conversation or dignify it with a response. I was furious. I knew my parents had always cared deeply about their public image, but this was madness. There was no way they genuinely expected me to keep quiet. I wish I could say I was surprised, but the cheating apple doesn't fall far from the cheating tree. Of course, my dad wanted me to stay silent so Jerry could escape the consequences of his actions. They wanted me to sweep everything under the rug and continue pretending that we were a perfectly normal and functional family, all to maintain the appearance for others. Suggesting that I forgive Carla and Jerry and try to patch things up so we could carry on as if nothing had happened took some real nerve. I was livid that they thought this was a good idea. In a moment of rage, I decided to text Tina to get back at Jerry for what he had done to me. I reached out to her, revealing everything I knew, including that Jerry had asked my dad to tell me to keep the affair a secret from her. I attached the screenshots of the messages I had taken from the burner phone and then turned off my phone. I didn't want anyone to contact me because I knew things were about to blow up, and I wanted no part of it. A few hours later, when I thought it was safe, I turned my phone back on and found it flooded with messages and missed calls from my family. Everyone was furious with me, but I was only interested in what Tina had to say. The first text I checked was from her. She didn't say much, just that she was grateful I had told her the truth and that she knew what to do now. It sounded a bit ominous, but soon I understood from the other messages. Everyone, my mom, my dad, and a few other family members, was frantic, telling me that Tina and Jerry had a massive fight after I sent the message, and Tina had left to stay with her parents with their son. The aftermath made it clear that divorce was very much on the table, and Tina might pursue full custody, which would be disastrous for Jerry, as she would likely do everything she could to limit his time with his son. Even if Jerry ends up with shared custody, my family is blaming me? If they didn't want any of this to happen, they should have taught Jerry not to cheat, but they didn't, so this mess is on him. Ever since I sent Tina the text and she left him, I've been bombarded with angry messages for the past couple of days. It feels really unfair that everyone is blaming me, and even more so to claim that I ruined a happy family. I don't understand where that's coming from, because if they were such a happy family, Jerry wouldn't have cheated. Whatever. I know I'm right, but I still feel uneasy knowing Jerry is really miserable now, and I worry about him not getting full custody with Carla. It's fine that we didn't have kids, but for them, it's different. I feel conflicted about telling my brother's wife about his affair with my wife. Update 1. It's been almost a week since I sent that message and Tina left the house, and things have quieted down somewhat. No more constant messages reminding me that this is all my fault. Mostly because I've blocked everyone. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life anymore. The only person who can still contact me is Carla, since I unblocked her for the divorce proceedings. She's using that window to try to talk to me, explaining that she wasn't thinking straight, and apologizing for cheating. I don't know what she hopes to achieve with this, but it's not working. I don't feel bad for her. In fact, I think it's great that she cheated because it saved me from wasting any more time with her. I can't imagine being married to her for a year or more and then finding out she had been cheating all along, or worse, letting her plan succeed and being together for 5 years before discovering the affair. I'm trying to find a positive spin on this and accept that she was never the right one for me. Anyone who can agree to marry me and then go make out with my half-brother could never be my soulmate. I'm glad I was wrong about her. I'm still staying in the hotel, and thankfully, no one has been able to find me yet. I'm really grateful for that, because I don't know how I'd handle it if they did track me down. It's only a matter of time before they do, though, since there aren't many hotels in this area, and they know I'm not in the city. I've been working from here, and it's been lonely and strange, but there's not much I can do about it. The only thing I hope works out for me is the divorce. She's already been served, but she hasn't responded yet. I guess she's probably holding out hope that I might change my mind because of her constant pleading, but it's unrealistic to think it will happen. Update 2. Hey everyone, it's been 3 days since my last update. My dad and Jerry managed to track me down. They checked every hotel in the city and realized I wasn't there, so they expanded their search outside of town and found my car in the hotel parking lot. I had already informed the front desk staff not to disclose my presence if anyone came looking for me. When my dad and Jerry confronted the staff, they claimed no one by my name was staying at the hotel. But my dad and Jerry had already seen my car, so they knew the staff were lying. They started throwing a tantrum in the lobby, screaming and using foul language at the receptionists, forcing them to calm me down to handle the situation. Once I came down, security escorted both of them outside, and I went up to talk to them. I had no idea what they wanted to discuss since the damage was already done, and Tina knew the truth. My dad and Jerry told me they had come up with a solution for me to make amends for what I had done. They proposed that I testify against Tina in court, claiming she was an unstable wife and mother, which supposedly justified Jerry's affair. Their plan was for me to say a few things that would make Tina look unreliable so Jerry could secure full custody. They claimed things weren't looking good for Jerry because, along with the affair, Tina had several complaints against him that painted him as a bad father, like his frequent absences. Now that she knew he was with Carla, there were other issues too. They pointed out that while he claimed to love his son, he never helped with baby duties like changing diapers or feeding him. Tina had always handled these tasks, and despite repeated requests, Jerry would always say he was too tired. Additionally, he avoided doing any chores around the house. Tina had been okay with managing everything on her own before the baby, but she couldn't cope anymore and just wanted out of the marriage. Honestly, I don't understand why they thought telling me this would work. It just confirmed that I did the right thing and that Tina was better off without him. It was incredibly entitled of them to expect any help from me after they screwed me over, especially for something like this. They wanted me to lie about Tina to secure full custody for Jerry, and it was absurd to think I would agree to that. I told them I had no interest in helping and that they meant nothing to me, so I didn't need to make amends for anything. Then I walked away without waiting for a response because I knew they couldn't change my mind. I instructed the security to have them removed from the property because I didn't want them anywhere near me, and I highlighted how dangerous they were. They were kicked off the hotel grounds. I still had to apologize to the hotel staff for their behavior. The only reason the police weren't called was that the hotel didn't want any bad press. Otherwise, they would have called the police and had my dad and Jerry arrested. Update 3. It's been 2 days since Dad and Jerry showed up at my hotel, and I haven't heard from them since. Carla has been texting me a lot more now. We've scheduled our first meeting with a court-appointed mediator next week. She's not contesting the divorce, so I don't understand why she keeps texting me. I haven't even opened her messages because I don't have the energy to deal with all this drama right now. I know it will just be the same old, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done this to you." If you ask me, it's all BS. If she was truly sorry, she would have made more of an effort to contact me, maybe called me since she knows I'm not big on texting. Or better yet, she might not have cheated at all if she understood that I didn't deserve this. Until a few days ago, she was sending only 2 texts per day, but now she's texting almost every hour. I haven't had the mental strength to open the chat and see what she has to say, but I think I'll check it soon because there might be something important. Update 4. Alright, so this is just 2 hours after my last update, and I know it's soon, but I checked the messages Carla had been sending me. It turns out she ended things with Jerry. They had a discussion recently, and she realized that for him, it had been purely physical. All the promises he made to her were just empty words. She's obviously very disappointed because she, unlike him, had been serious about their relationship and had actually started falling for him. She told me she was very sorry for everything she put me through and, to make up for it, she won't be contesting the divorce or asking for any settlement or alimony because she knows she doesn't deserve it. So that's one problem solved. At least I won't have to endure a prolonged process and fight for my rights. I didn't reply to Carla's message because I didn't know what to say. It's sad, but she really had it coming. What was she thinking, getting involved with a married man with a child, especially when she was about to get married herself? It was incredibly foolish, but it all worked out well for me, so I can't complain. I'm actually glad I checked those messages because it means I'll have to work a lot harder on the divorce than I initially thought. I forwarded all the texts to my lawyer and saved them as screenshots just in case they're needed later. Update 5. Hey, so it's been a couple of months since I last posted here, but I've been really busy. Once the waiting period was over, which is 90 days in our state, the divorce process moved quickly. Carla only got to keep things she had bought for herself, and I got everything else. I kept the house and moved back in, she got her car, and since we hadn't been married for long, our finances were already separate, so there was nothing complicated there. Jerry and Tina are in the midst of a bitter divorce, and the custody battle is getting pretty intense from what I've heard. It's sad for my nephew, but Tina has told me that I'm allowed to see him. That's a huge win for me because I really like the little guy and I hope to have kids of my own someday, definitely not with Carla though. Anyway, I'm working on getting my life back on track, and so far, things are going well. I just hope they continue to improve from here on out.